guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we'll be going over some of the basic supplies that you'll need when you just start to sew. I'll also add in a few extra items that aren't a necessity, but they can still, help with your sewing if you are able to, afford them. These items are all very affordable for the most part, and I have them all linked in my Amazon storefront in the link tree in the description. So let's get to it, starting with thread. I think that's the most common item most people know about as a sewing supply. So when you just start out, you don't need a million different colors. Really, when I first started out, I was just using black and white because these are, colors that go with anything. And then you can also have like your creams, neutral colors or gray to mix it up a bit. And then as you progress and you want your thread to be matching with whatever you're making, you can add on, for whatever garments you need. You can also purchase like 18 count of different threads with just multiple colors. You could do that as well. I just like to kind of purchase as I need because for the most part, black and white will do the job. Now, the next item that is very good is going to be like a tailor's chalk or a disappearing ink pen, or like a pen that you can mark with, but it's gonna go away. So this pen I actually just got at Walmart, and I'll also link it in my Amazon bio. It is just a disappearing ink pen or a mark be gone. So it actually has two sides. The purple side is where you don't actually have to wash it. You mark it in literally in like a few minutes, maybe 30 minutes or however long, it'll go away by the next day for sure. And then there's also the water soluble ink, which you do need to wash it and it will go away, or with water it'll go away. This is really good when you're using patterns or you want to make adjustments. Same thing with the tailor's chalk. I have a white and blue. This same thing with that, you're just going to mark when you're using your patterns. This you can use water or just wash it and it comes off. The only thing with these, I may not have got the right one, but sometimes you really have to press hard to make sure it marks. So that's why I think I do prefer to use, this pen, but the chalk definitely works. So you can pick which one, you prefer. Next, now we have scissors. So this is the first pair of scissors I started out with. They definitely, they worked fine. They're obviously a little bit more cheaper when compared to this kind. I think I got these at Walmart as well. And they're just, regular in the sewing aisle. You want to make sure though, whatever scissors you use for sewing, you do want to make sure that you only use it for sewing fabrics or your cutting fabrics. Otherwise, it's just going to get dull a lot quicker. So these I still use actually, but for thicker fabrics, it's kind of like a hassle to use. As you can see, it's not even like the sound. You can tell it's kind of dull. These are like amazing. I love these. I got these on Amazon as well. And they're supposed to be like a dupe of the Guggenheim scissors. And they're amazing. They're a lot cheaper. And it didn't only come with this. It came with a few other things as well. It was like 20 bucks or so. Amazing. It cuts through like butter. So definitely get yourself a nice pair of scissors if you can afford to. Really just start with a nice quality pair like this rather than starting with this and then having to, down the line buy this, or just struggling with this if you do have the money. But if not, these work, great as well. So next we have seam rippers. So if you sew, if you're just starting to sew, you'll know that you're gonna make mistakes. So you're gonna have to use the seam ripper to rip out the seams and, re-sew wherever you messed up on. This came with, I got a pack on Amazon as well with a few different supplies. You can get these at Walmart, or it's again in my Amazon storefront. Definitely a great supply to use. Just go with the seam ripper and it'll take away the thread and looks like new, and you can redo it and no one would ever know. So you definitely are gonna need a pair. I got a bigger and a smaller one. It came together in a pack, so these are good to use. Now, also, So I'll actually save this for later. This is not a necessity, but it's something that can come in handy. We'll do that later. So next we have pins. So pins or even clips are definitely going to be something you want to use when you're sewing 2 or more pieces of fabric together, or you're tracing a pattern and you want to make sure the pattern stays to your fabric. You can pin it, you can clip it. Also, when you take the fabric to the machine, you're going to use the pins. These are great. Being that sometimes I do have long nails, or sometimes it's just hard to like kind of grab these, right? Even if you don't have nails, it can be kind of harder to navigate with these. So I did actually recently get some clips, and I really like these because you just clip them on and off. You don't have to like push it in and out of the fabric, but both are great. You don't need both in your sewing supplies. If you just prefer one, or if you know you have long nails, then get the clips. If you think you'd prefer the pins, get the pins. Either. I still use the pins, but the clips definitely have been coming in handy. Now, also when it comes to sewing, so you're gonna need needles. Just get your standard, again, because most people want to be affordable. You know, you don't need to get a million different types, but as you're just starting, universal, that's a universal needle. It can use for most common fabrics, from your thinner to thicker fabrics. And then it also can be used for like knit fabrics if they stretch. This one actually has both universal and ballpoint. So ballpoint is going to be for your stretchier materials. These are good. You're going to need them because, you know, your needle will get dull or eventually break. So it's definitely good to just have, you know, one handy as like a replacement. And as you continue to sew other garments that are more thicker, or you want to diversify, you know, you can get your denim needle, your heavy duty needles, Microtex, jersey, all those types as you progress. When you just start out, definitely universal or like a stretch needle is, you know, fairly good enough. Okay, so another supply, it's going to be our ruler. This I didn't even purchase. I feel like most people probably have this laying around in their house. I just like to use this to when I'm, you know, making sure my line is straight, when I'm cutting using a rotary cutter, we'll get to that, or it is clear. I'm glad it's clear by chance, because again, I just found it in my house, because you can navigate and see the fabric, so you know what you're doing. You see the marks, you can make sure everything is even on both sides. So definitely just grab one of these. I wouldn't say this is a necessity, but it's definitely very, very helpful when it comes to your sewing. Now, these are things that you don't really need, but they will come in handy a lot. So the rotary cutter, honestly, I kind of feel like this is a need, because I use this more, I feel like, than my actual scissors, because a lot of the times for patterns, I find it easier to just use a rotary cutter and cut, rather than like lifting it up and making sure everything is in place. But even if you have a rotary cutter, for the most part, you'll still need scissors. But I do feel like with scissors, you don't necessarily need a rotary cutter. So if you do have to pick, definitely get scissors. If you're able to get both, a rotary cutter is definitely going to make things very easy for you. And that's like what I was saying with your ruler. You'll place your fabric down and then you'll cut. You do need this a cutting mat, because if you cut on a regular table or the floor, take it from me, you're gonna need a new pair of rotary cutters, because it'll dull the blade. So just keep that in mind. If you do get this, you're gonna need a cutting mat. Otherwise, if you can't afford both, or you just don't want all that to start out with, definitely just get a pair of scissors and you'll be fine. But these, I really love these a lot. Next, we have, this is a magnetic pin cushion thingy. Not a cushion, but it's a magnetic pin thing that it grabs the pins. So when you work with pins, if you're just starting out, you may not have experienced this, but as you gradually go, it's something that you may, you know, want to get. Instead of, you know, you'll have pins, because as you're taking out the pins, you know, you more than likely you put them down. Some people do have a pin cushion, I don't. So a pin cushion is something you can get. But, you know, your pins, then they go all over the place or on the floor. So With this, you literally, instead of picking it up, you know, one by one, if you have long nails, you just take this and literally it just grabs it because it's a magnet. So these are really good. Also, I should have mentioned, so these are plastic pins. In the future, if I didn't know, but I was just starting out when I got these, definitely grab glass pins because you may want to iron with the pins in, just to save you, because this is going to be hard to kind of, you know, get around with the iron. If you do have the money, just get some glass pins. I don't think they're that much more expensive. I just actually got some glass pins a bit ago, but I've been using my clips, so I don't use them too much. But just a little tip there. So that's this thing. I really like it. And then we have here, this is a little thread snipper. When you're sewing, when I was starting out to sew, right, a lot of the times you're so excited, you just take the thread, you cut it, and then you have pieces of thread dangling on different parts of your clothing, which makes it look like someone sewed it. Like, it makes it look like it was not professionally sewn. So to help out with that, right after you're done sewing anything, it is recommended to just snip off those threads. And it's because they're so small, rather than using, you know, a big pair of scissors, you are able to get closer to the stitch and leaving a cleaner look. Again, these aren't a necessity because you can just use your scissors, or even a machine comes with one sometimes, but it's definitely a nice supply to have because it does help your clothes come out more professional. So these are thread snippers. Again, this is linked in my Amazon storefront. And I don't usually buy supplies alone, so a lot of the things come in like a pack. So a lot of the times you can get like these things with scissors together, you know, stuff like that. And then lastly, here we have this cutter. It came with my cutting mat. This is, again, very helpful when you're cutting instead of this ruler, because as you know, it's smaller, so I can get just a longer reach with this, or if I need to measure anything, it's just another thing that's helpful to make sure my lines are even or straight. Even like looking down on fabric, a lot of times you'll make a line, you'll think it's straight, and then you put this down and you see it's uneven. So just another thing to help you with that. Again, this is not a need, just a luxury if you're able to get it. I would say your basics are going to be, of course, you know, your thread, your pins or clips, one or the other, not necessarily both, you know, your tailor's chalk or a disappearing ink pen, one or the other, again, not necessarily both, you know, and then scissors, and then seam rippers and like needles. These are all going to be your basic supplies that you'll want when you start to sew. So yeah, that's pretty much all. Also, you may need, I forgot to bring it here, but you also, actually, one second. What I was saying, you'll also need a measuring tape. This, I don't know if it's a need, but I do feel like it's a need because you're going to want to measure yourself, unless you're just using clothes, or even it's just easy to sometimes measure here and there, but it's nice to have. This is something you may have lying around the house as well, just a measuring tape. You want to make sure it's like a sewing measuring tape, so it's the longer one, not a shorter one. And this is another helpful thing that you'll need, you know, just to make sure your measurements and all that is correct. But yeah, you guys, so that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful, and also what other beginner sewing videos you guys would like to see. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and see you guys next time.